Anatoly Moskvin's collection of human corpse dolls. The fascination with death has been a topic of much discussion and sharing, and for those interested in it, the morbid fascination and peculiar interest in the topic after death may stem from either a special bond or an emotional attachment of an individual to a deceased person. In some cases, to satisfy the longing or cope with the loss, people often visit cemeteries to visit graves, or in some more extreme cases, use Ouija boards or other special devices to communicate with the other world. Depending on the circumstances, these actions can have either negative or not so good consequences. Some individuals take this much further to the extent that it becomes illegal and bizarre. Hello everyone, and today we will explore the extraordinary and extremely strange story of a man living in Russia named Anatoly Moskvin. Anatoly, who is now 54 years old, was recognized as a genius by many in the 2000s. He was a historian, a person who has published many scientific papers and imparted knowledge to many, with his extensive knowledge of up to 13 different languages. Family and acquaintances described him as a very quiet and humble person with nothing unusual about him. However, he had a strange obsession with the otherworldly, and the scientific documents he had produced in the past somewhat affirmed this. He had a very dark secret, a secret that had been happening around his loved ones for a long time without their knowledge. Going back to the past, in 1966, Anatoly Moskvin was born in the city of Nizhny Novgorod, Russia, to his parents Yuri Fedorovich and Elvira Alexandrovna. According to Anatoly's parents, he was very introverted and had difficulty making friends. However, he was extremely intelligent, so his parents thought that this introverted nature must be linked to Anatoly's superior intelligence, and they didn't worry too much about it. Therefore, Anatoly's childhood was completely different from that of other ordinary children. He once recounted that one day in 3rd grade, he returned home from school covered in bruises, which turned out to be caused by a man who raped Anatoly. Until this day, it remains unclear whether he has informed his parents about this incident, and this is not even the most horrifying event that occurred in Anatoly's childhood. Next here is the event that sparked Anatoly's twisted fascination with a very unusual topic: death. In 1979, when Anatoly was around 13 years old, a group of people dressed in black suits intercepted him on his way home from school. They were on their way to the funeral of an 11-year-old girl named Natasha Petrova, and proceeded to drag Anatoly along. The individuals in black led him to the coffin and compelled Anatoly to kiss the body of the deceased girl. "I kissed her once, then again and again," Anatoly Moskvin recalled. Later, the mother of the deceased girl placed a wedding ring on Anatoly's finger and put the other one on her daughter's finger. From that moment on, Anatoly's obsession and fascination with the deceased began to develop. After that event, Anatoly had strange dreams about the deceased girl, and he recounted that she would visit him every night and talk to him about dark magic knowledge. At the same time, she relentlessly urged Anatoly to find the village where these magical rituals were performed. Once Anatoly found the village, the visits from the girl stopped. However, shortly after Anatoly stopped his visits to the village more regularly, she returned in his dreams. Anatoly tried to tell this story to his parents when they took him to a doctor and received a conclusion that this was happening because Anatoly was going through puberty. Then the doctor also prescribed Anatoly doses of herbal sedatives to help him relax. After a year of being visited by Natasha in his dreams, she finally grew weary of Anatoly constantly refusing to fulfill the requests she made. Therefore, she struck a deal with Anatoly. He would have to perform a dark magic ritual, with the ingredient being a tooth from a classmate, in exchange for her leaving forever and letting Anatoly be at peace. Somehow, according to Anatoly, that ritual was successfully performed, and according to that deal, Natasha never returned since then. However, that very ritual also began to fuel Anatoly's intense interest in black magic and the occult. Sometime later, Anatoly attended a university in Moscow, and obtained a degree in Celtic culture studies, which is an ancient Central European culture. With all the knowledge of these beliefs and his passion for black magic, Anatoly performed various rituals on dead animals, and swore to live a solitary life forever. After graduating, Anatoly learned and knew everything about the complex structure of the cemeteries around his home. After sharing his knowledge in some documents he wrote, he said that he knew and researched about more than 752 cemeteries from 2005 to 2007 in his hometown. Assisted by another renowned historian, the two embarked on a nationwide journey to explore and document cemeteries, while simultaneously delving into their histories, with the purpose of writing a book titled Nizhny Novgorod Necropolis, that would encompass all of their findings. But Anatoly Moskvin had another secret plan of his own. In 2009, local residents began to notice that the graves of their loved ones seemed to have been tampered with, and some were even completely dug up. This sparked a 2-year investigation to delve deeper into these incidents, but ultimately, it led nowhere. In 2011, a terrorist attack against Muslims occurred at an airport in Moscow, and shortly thereafter, authorities began receiving reports of Muslim graves being desecrated and dug up. After the investigation aimed at identifying the perpetrators, Anatoly quickly fell under suspicion and was eventually arrested after being caught red-handed desecrating a grave. Shortly thereafter, the police began to investigate Anatoly Moskvin more deeply for his bizarre actions. And the first place they searched was his residence. As Anatoly was suspected to be associated with an anti-Muslim group, when the investigation bureau began, the police thought they would find evidence of this at his home. However, what they actually found will send shivers down your spine. The police search of the house Anatoly lived in with his parents led to the discovery of 29 lifelike dolls in various shapes and sizes. These doll models resembled antique dolls dressed in different outfits, all meticulously made up by Anatoly, who even inserted something round into their eye sockets to make them appear more lifelike. But the terrifying part is these were not just ordinary dolls. All of them were crafted from the corpses of girls aged 3 to 12. As the police moved these dolls to investigate further, they noticed eerie sounds emanating from them. Later, Anatoly revealed that he had crafted skeletons with music boxes for each doll, so that when he interacted with them, they would respond with sound. Anatoly even noted the birthdays of each girl so he could celebrate them in his room. According to the officers, there were photographs and pieces of gravestones brought from the graves. A notebook detailing how to make these dolls and maps marking the locations of cemeteries in the area were found scattered around the apartment. Most of the dolls' outfits were also their burial clothes. Anatoly shared that to give these dolls their complete shape, he had to wrap their arms and legs in pieces of fabric, tightly bound with gauze. He did this with each limb and the face of each doll before inserting round objects into their eye sockets so they could watch cartoons with him. During the police interrogation, Anatoly stated that he loved almost all of them, but some dolls in which he wasn't particularly interested would be left in the basement, forgotten and neglected. He did all this alone, and Anatoly's parents were aware of his passion for making eerie humanoid dolls, yet strangely they didn't pay much attention to it, even when the dolls emanated strong odors of decay from the decomposing bodies. We did see those dolls, but we had no idea they were made from human corpses. We thought it was our child's hobby and didn't see anything wrong with it. According to a neighbor, there was a strong smell of decay emanating from their apartment every time he passed by, but he thought it was just some issues with the sewage pipes and didn't think much of it. Of all the bodies Anatoly kept here, the one that had been with him the longest had been there for 9 years. With all these findings, Anatoly was charged with extremely serious crimes. He admitted to violating a total of 44 graves and was subsequently held in a psychiatric facility shortly after. There, he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and has been detained in the hospital since then. There have been multiple reports that Anatoly was physically assaulted numerous times by the guards at this facility, and according to his mother, Anatoly had to take about 15 pills every day, leading him to develop catatonia syndrome, a mental disorder related to a person's ability to move and react. Therefore, a human rights lawyer named Violeta Volkova was hired to represent Anatoly Moskvin with the aim of helping him get out of this facility and move to another center for re-examination, expressing distrust towards the doctors at the current facility. After all the legal struggles, in September 2018, he was given the opportunity to continue psychiatric treatment at home, along with the right to freedom. This decision has sparked much controversy and tension within the community. The mother of one of the victims, Natalia Chardamova, didn't realize that all this time she had been visiting an empty coffin at her daughter's grave. Her daughter, Olga Chardamova, was one of the 29 girls Anatoly had exhumed and kept at his home. Olga was brutally murdered at the age of 10, on the first day she was allowed to walk alone from her home to her grandmother's house next door, while her parents were still at work. "I'm already 10 years old, I can go by myself," Olga Chardamova said. This is perhaps the most horrifying experience parents can go through. I cannot imagine the guilt they must feel upon learning the dark fate of their daughter. Her daughter was taken away not once, but twice, surely fueled Natalia's anger, and was one of many voices opposing Anatoly's release. "He needs to be monitored. This creature has brought terror and chaos into my life," said Natalia Chardamova. Until now, Anatoly Moskvin may be considered a free man, no longer under surveillance and able to move about society freely. However, his story will always be remembered as one of the most bizarre and darkest in history. And I hope this man is under constant supervision by authorities for the rest of his life, because a mentally ill person with such strange passions being free could easily continue to pursue his monstrous interests and inadvertently inflict pain upon others. And this is Creep Factor. Thank you for taking the time to watch the entire video. And if you like this video, please click like, share and subscribe to the channel for more interesting contents.